Today's episode is really about building out friendships, connection, and a reminder of how simple it can actually be at the end of the day. So here's what happened with my 5-year-old. She just started at a new school. I was putting her to bed and I said, hey, I can't wait to see what new friends you're going to make here. And she looked at me and she said, I'm not going to make any friends. I don't want to. So I asked her why. And she said, I didn't make friends at my old school either. It was Sarah who came up to me, tapped me on the shoulder, and asked if I wanted to play with her. And that's what happened. Someone needs to come take me. Those were her words. Like, I literally took out my phone and I wrote down verbatim what she said. I need someone to come take me. And in her own little words, I understood immediately what she meant. What she meant was to say that she wants a Keanu Reeves in her life. And who can blame her? I too would like a Keanu Reeves in my life. There's this meme, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put it next to my face so you can see it. Keanu Reeves is holding a dog. I don't know what show he was in, maybe Friends, I don't remember. And it says, the extrovert adopted me, and the dog is the introvert. So Keanu's just the extrovert walking around with, holding the introvert. And it's kind of true, right? Like, we get adopted by extroverts, those of us who are introverted individuals. And I understood immediately that that's what she meant. Now, my daughter is very social, outspoken, and she's the life of the party with her friends once she's comfortable with them. But when it comes to starting from scratch, reaching out first, she freezes. And so when she expressed her thoughts and doubts and worries, I thought, wow, same. I understand, I relate, because she just wants someone to take the lead. And then I went down this rabbit hole where I was reminded of a conversation that I read somewhere, I think it was in a book, from social psychologist Nicholas Epley, where he says, quote, nobody waves first, but everybody waves back. And it's so powerful if you really take the time to think about it, because it really removes all this fear behind reaching out first. And it took me to a memory that I have from 15 years back almost in Norway. And it was my husband and I, and we were on this tiny boat in the middle of the fjord. And at one point, we were passed by this massive cruise ship, like one of those Norwegian cruise lines, Carnival. And rows of people were standing on deck, looking down at us. It was quite eerie. Like, it was pure silence in the middle of this beautiful area. And we were just staring at each other. And I felt so small and so silly. And I had all these people looking down at me. And then my husband, the ultimate extrovert, social butterfly that he is, raised his hand and waved at them. You know how you just wave past ships or trains or what have you. And do you know what happened next? Hundreds, and I mean hundreds of people waved back at him, at us, because then I felt awkward too. And I was like, oh, maybe I should also wave a little bit. But it was such a shocking, revelatory moment, I guess, because suddenly we didn't feel so small anymore. We felt connected to these people, like we belonged with them in that moment. And it really stayed with me. And it taught me something, that most of us are just waiting. We're just waiting for someone to go first, to take initiative, to make it safe, to open the door. And here's the thing. Yes, you will risk rejection when you are the first one to take initiative. And sometimes people will ghost you, and sometimes it's not going to click, and sometimes they're going to give you a stink eye, like, why are you bothering me, But every time you wave, you're giving yourself the possibility of connection, of having a chance at it. We all know that one person that walks into a room and boom, they leave with 10 new best friends. I have known several people like this in my life, and I have always admired them. And I've always been envious of this skill, this energy, this charisma that they have. They have that big smile on their face. They're more extroverted in nature, and they just start chatting to just anybody that's around them. And that's amazing. I really admire them for that. And so you look at these people and you're like, oh, I really wish I could be more like them, because, it's kind of awkward for me to connect. I hesitate. It's always strange to be the first one to initiate conversation. And I get that. But most people who do collect these friends on the plane, at the coffee shop, what have you, you just know that they are the first ones to make contact. I mean, there's a slew of factors that I take into consideration that make me go like, no way, I am not talking to someone on a plane. But even with that being said, in the past few years, I have become more intentional about seeking out human connection. One time that I met a mom at a playground who had a Keep Austin Weird shirt. And I was just sitting at the pool and I looked up and I saw her wearing this and I was like, whoa, cool. I like Austin. Seems like she does too. And we can connect on that. So I said something along the lines of, hey, are you from Austin? That's like one of my favorite cities in the US. We started talking. We exchanged phone numbers, Facebook profiles, and then eventually she ghosted me. So, c'est la vie, it happens, but at least I did my part in trying to connect and especially to connect on a shared interest. So the next time you're hesitant to send that text or introduce yourself or even just smile at someone, remember, nobody waves first, but everybody waves back. Here's my task for you for this week. Go ahead and wave and just see what happens. Sure, you might end up in a really awkward situation, but that's okay. You've probably been in many awkward situations and you don't remember them and you've lived through them and you will be going through many more awkward situations in your life. And this is very relevant to my previous podcast of a few weeks ago where I said that you will survive feeling stupid. You will. But what if the outcome of this risk is that you find a lifelong friendship? I think that is worth more than feeling awkward and stupid for a few seconds, because then you will just move on. So I hope that maybe this has sparked something inside of you and made you feel a little bit more comfortable with the idea of sharing yourself first and just trying that out and see where it takes you. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. I'm Roxana, and this is You're Worth Knowing. I'll see you next time.